Matthew, tell us about Camp Deerwoode for Boys, the founding of it, and like, your earliest memories growing up there.
Wow, this is going to take a minute. Okay, my dad, we moved from Texas when I was 3 years old. My dad left General Motors and bought Camp Deerwoode, which had basically been run into the ground. The previous owner had closed the camp. Look, there's a whole story behind this history that I'm not going to bore you with. It's just unbelievable. You wouldn't believe it if I told it to you. But anyway, the place had been closed. I guess my dad was looking for a place to send my brother and I to camp when we got a little older. So somehow he landed on this place called Camp Deerwoode in Brevard, North Carolina. And it turns out, that we looked into it and it had been closed for years. The previous owner kind of ran into some personal trouble and they closed it for a while. So somehow, I was 3 years old. I don't know how all this happened, but somehow my dad was fed up with General Motors and wanted to get out of the corporate, America and go do his own thing. My dad was an All-American college basketball player and kind of an industrial art wizard and really kind of one of those Mother Earth News hippie industrial guys who could build anything and do anything himself. And I think he wanted to go do his own thing. So at 28 years old, as he says, he took a 3,000% pay cut, bought this rundown camp in North Carolina that had been closed for years, and went up there and got in a kind of a partnership with the previous owner. And a year later, my mother and my brother and I moved up. I was 3. We moved from Arlington, Texas. I don't remember any of Texas. My first memories are Western North Carolina. So my dad goes up a year early. We follow a year later. It was kind of my mom was asking questions on the phone. I'm just kind of putting all this together because I was too young to remember it. But my dad said, look, the place needs a lot of work, but the boys are going to love it. So he just kind of wanted to go do his own thing, and the entrepreneurial spirit, and a guy who was, talented enough to be able to go do that. So the place needed a lot of work. We moved up there. He bought it in 1966. He bought the other owner out in 67. We moved up in 67.
He inherited a total of 0 campers and 0 staff, right?
Oh, when I say it had been run into the ground, I think the guy had run it for 1 year, maybe as a boys camp before he got there. It was hurting. Now you got to realize this camp goes all the way back to 1923. It was built in 23. It was a YMCA camp. The first 3 owners were pretty quick. Then it turned into Camp Chickasaw for girls. And then Mr. Sprott came in, the guy that my dad bought it from in 66, and ran it as a girls camp up to about 1955. Now, look, I'm not going to bore you guys with all the gory details about what happened with that. You can probably go on the internet and find out.
Oh, that's anyway, okay. We're talking about Deerwoode for Boys now. That's what we want.
Well, it was a girls camp till 55, and then there was a big scandal.
Got it.
Previous owner. So it closed for years. When it reopened, it was suddenly magically Camp Deerwoode for Boys. I'm going to let you guys go figure all that out. Anyway, my dad didn't know about all this stuff. So he comes into this, and we bought the other guy out, continued the boys camp. He built it up into an incredible program, ran it for 26 years. My dad was, like I said, was an All-American basketball player, a coach, just a motivator of young men. I think it was truly his calling. 15,000 kids came through there. And, I'll say one thing about my dad, and I'm going through this now as he's kind of on the downhill slide, and he's not remembering much at 85. But you either loved that guy or you didn't. I mean, you knew right where you stood with a man like Bill Mays. He was a half-breed Comanche Indian from West Texas. And you didn't know. If you wanted a pat on the back, you were looking in the wrong place. It was kind of a rough and tumble boys camp.
Take a moment to shine.